Victoria Hart stared at the email on her screen for the third time that morning. The message was simple, direct, and completely inappropriate. Her assistant had flagged it as urgent, but Victoria wondered if it should have been flagged as absurd instead. The CEO of Stone Enterprises, one of the largest investment firms in the country, was inviting her to spend 48 hours alone with him at his private mountain cabin. The stated purpose was to discuss a potential partnership worth millions. The unstated subtext made her pulse quicken in ways that had nothing to do with business. Victoria was 31 years old and had built her reputation as a financial analyst through pure determination and brilliant instinct. She could read market trends the way poets read emotions, finding patterns where others saw only chaos. Her clients trusted her because she never let personal feelings cloud her judgment. She was logical, methodical, and completely in control. Until now. Nathaniel Stone had a reputation that preceded him like thunder before a storm. At 38, he had transformed his family's modest investment firm into a powerhouse that moved markets with a single decision. He was known for his unconventional methods, his refusal to play by traditional rules, and his ability to see potential where others saw risk. He was also devastatingly attractive, in a way that made Victoria uncomfortable during their brief professional encounters. Dark hair that always looked slightly disheveled, intense green eyes that seemed to analyze everything, and a presence that filled whatever room he entered. Their first meeting had been 6 months ago at a financial conference in Chicago. Victoria had presented her analysis on emerging markets, and Nathaniel had challenged every single one of her conclusions. Not rudely, but with a sharpness that made her defend every data point, every assumption. She had expected to feel angry. Instead, she felt alive. Since then, their professional paths had crossed repeatedly. Each encounter left her more unsettled, more aware of the intelligence behind those green eyes, the confidence in his voice, the way he listened when she spoke, as if her words actually mattered. Now he was proposing something that crossed every professional line she had carefully maintained throughout her career. Victoria picked up her phone and dialed before she could overthink it. He answered on the second ring. "Victoria Hart?" His voice came through warm and amused, as if he had been expecting her call. "I assume you received my proposal?" "Your highly inappropriate proposal," she corrected, but there was no real anger in her voice. "A weekend alone at your cabin is not a standard business meeting." "Nothing about what I'm proposing is standard," Nathaniel replied. "I want to offer you a partnership that will change both our companies, but I need to know who you really are, not just the polished professional you show the world. I need to see how you think under pressure, how you handle uncertainty, whether you can adapt when all your careful plans fall apart." Victoria walked to her office window, looking out at the city below. 20 floors down, people rushed through their lives, following patterns, meeting expectations, staying safe within their comfortable boundaries. Why the cabin? Why not just schedule more meetings here in the city? Because in the city, we both wear masks. We perform our roles. I need to see the person behind the analyst, Victoria, and I think you need to see the person behind the CEO title. No assistants, no agendas, no escape routes. Just honest conversation about whether we can truly work together. Something in his voice made her breath catch. This was not just about business. They both knew it, even if neither would say it directly. "When?" The word escaped before Victoria could stop it. "This weekend. I'll have a car pick you up Friday morning at 7. We return Sunday evening. Bring comfortable clothes and leave your laptop behind. There's no cell service up there, no internet, no connection to the outside world." Victoria should refuse. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was dangerous, potentially career-ending, completely reckless. "I'll be ready," she heard herself say. Nathaniel was quiet for a moment, and Victoria could almost feel his satisfaction through the phone. "Good. I had a feeling you would surprise me, Victoria. You always do." After she hung up, Victoria sat in her leather chair and tried to remember the last time she had done something purely because it excited her, not because it was smart or strategic or safe. She could not recall a single instance. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and second-guessing. Victoria told her assistant she would be unreachable for the weekend, working on a confidential project. She packed a small bag with jeans, sweaters, and hiking boots she had bought years ago but never worn. She tried to work but found herself staring out windows, wondering what she was really agreeing to. Friday morning arrived with clear skies and cold air. The black car pulled up exactly at 7, and Victoria stepped outside with her bag, her heart pounding harder than it should for a simple business trip. Nathaniel was already in the back seat, dressed in casual clothes that made him look younger, more approachable, and somehow more dangerous than ever. He smiled when she slid in beside him. "No turning back now," he said softly. "I never turn back," Victoria replied, meeting his eyes directly. The car pulled away from the curb, carrying them towards the mountains, towards isolation, towards whatever truth waited in that cabin. Victoria watched the city disappear behind them and felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening that had been locked for years. The mountain road twisted through dense forests that seemed to close in around them like a living tunnel. Victoria watched the landscape transform from suburban sprawl to wilderness, feeling the distance from her controlled life grow with every mile. Nathaniel sat beside her in comfortable silence, occasionally pointing out landmarks or sharing brief stories about the region. "I bought the cabin 5 years ago," he said, as they climbed higher into the mountains. "Everyone thought I was crazy. Why would a CEO need a place without electricity or running water? But that's exactly why I need it. Sometimes you have to strip away all the noise to hear what actually matters." Victoria glanced at him, noticing how relaxed he seemed compared to the intense businessman she knew from boardrooms. His shoulders had lost their corporate tension, and his hands rested easy on his knees instead of constantly checking his phone. "You don't miss being connected?" she asked. "Most executives panic after an hour without email." Nathaniel smiled. "I used to be one of those executives. Then I realized I was building an empire but losing myself in the process. The cabin became my reminder that I'm human first, CEO second." The car finally stopped at a narrow trailhead where the paved road ended. A wooden path disappeared into thick trees, and Victoria could see dark clouds gathering on the horizon. "We walk from here," Nathaniel said, shouldering his bag. "It's about 20 minutes up the mountain." The trail was steeper than Victoria expected, and she was grateful for the hiking boots she had chosen. Nathaniel moved ahead with the easy confidence of someone who knew every route and rock, occasionally looking back to make sure she was keeping pace. The forest around them was alive with sounds: birds calling, leaves rustling, the distant rush of water over stones. When they finally emerged into a small clearing, Victoria stopped and caught her breath. The cabin stood before them, built from dark wood that blended into the surrounding trees. It was larger than she expected, but still intimate, with wide windows facing the valley below and the stone chimney rising from the roof. "Welcome to my sanctuary," Nathaniel said, climbing the wooden steps to unlock the door. Inside, the cabin was surprisingly warm and inviting. A large main room combined kitchen and living space, with comfortable furniture arranged around a stone fireplace. Victoria could see 2 bedroom doors on opposite sides, and large windows that brought the forest inside. "I'll start a fire," Nathaniel said, moving to the fireplace with practiced efficiency. "The temperature drops fast up here once the sun goes down. Your room is on the left. Make yourself comfortable." Victoria carried her bag to the smaller bedroom and found a simple but cozy space with a large bed covered in thick quilts, a wooden dresser, and a window overlooking the valley. She could see storm clouds rolling in faster now, dark and heavy with rain. When she returned to the main room, Nathaniel had the fire going and was opening the shutters on the windows. "Storm's coming sooner than I expected," he said. "But we're well stocked. This cabin has survived worse." They spent the first hour settling in, and Victoria felt the strange awkwardness of being alone with someone she knew professionally but not personally. Nathaniel moved around the kitchen preparing coffee, while she stood by the window watching the clouds devour the sky. "So, are we going to talk about this partnership, or was that just an excuse to get me up here?" Nathaniel handed her a mug of coffee, his fingers brushing hers briefly. The touch sent an unexpected current through her arm. "It's not an excuse. I genuinely want to discuss working together. But I also wanted to see if we could have a real conversation, not a performance." "What makes you think I perform?" Victoria asked, slightly defensive. "Because I do the same thing," Nathaniel said, sitting on the couch near the fire. "We both spent years building armor, learning to show only what serves our goals, keeping everything else locked away. I'm tired of it, Victoria. I want to know if there's someone I can actually trust in this business, someone who sees beyond the next quarter's profits." The first drops of rain hit the windows, and within minutes it became a downpour. Thunder rolled across the mountains, shaking the cabin's walls. Victoria sat across from Nathaniel, cradling her coffee, feeling the safety of her normal world slipping away. "Tell me something true," Nathaniel said suddenly. "Not something you would say in a business meeting, something real." Victoria hesitated, then decided if she was here, she might as well be honest. "I'm lonely. I have a successful career, financial security, respect in my field. But I go home to an empty apartment every night, and I can't remember the last time I had a conversation that mattered. Everything is about strategy, about winning, about staying ahead. I forgot how to just be a person." The vulnerability in her own words surprised her. She never admitted such things, not even to herself. Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fire. "3 years ago, I almost had a heart attack. I was 45 years old, at the peak of my career, and my body was shutting down from stress. My doctor told me I needed to change everything or I wouldn't see 50. That's when I bought this cabin. I realized I was building an empire but losing myself in the process. The cabin became my reminder that I'm human first, CEO second." The storm intensified, rain hammering the roof like drum beats. Lightning flashed, illuminating the room in stark white bursts. Nathaniel stood and checked the windows, securing the shutters against the wind. "This is going to be a big one. We might lose some shingles, but the cabin will hold." They spent the next hours talking in ways Victoria had never talked to anyone in business. Nathaniel shared stories from his childhood, growing up with a father who valued money over everything else, learning that love was transactional. Victoria talked about her mother's death when she was 16, how she had thrown herself into achievement to avoid feeling the loss, building success like a wall between herself and grief. The professional distance between them dissolved with each shared story. Victoria found herself laughing at Nathaniel's description of his first disastrous board meeting, and he listened with genuine interest when she described her breakthrough analysis that had launched her career. As evening darkness merged with storm clouds, the cabin became a small island of light and warmth in a wild world. Nathaniel cooked dinner from supplies in the pantry, while Victoria set the table, and they fell into an easy rhythm that felt natural, comfortable, right. "I haven't felt this relaxed in years," Victoria admitted, as they ate pasta by candlelight, the electricity having flickered out hours ago. "Neither have I," Nathaniel said, his eyes meeting hers across the table. "Maybe we both needed permission to stop performing." Thunder crashed directly overhead, so loud it seemed the mountain itself was splitting open. The windows rattled and rain poured down in sheets so thick Victoria could not see beyond the glass. They were truly isolated now, cut off from everything familiar, trapped together in this small wooden sanctuary while nature raged outside. And somehow, Victoria realized, she had never felt safer.
The storm reached its full fury just after midnight. Victoria had moved to her bedroom hours ago, but sleep remained impossible. The wind screamed through the trees like a living thing, and rain battered the cabin walls with relentless force. She lay under the thick quilts, listening to the chaos outside and thinking about everything that had shifted between her and Nathaniel over the past 12 hours. A particularly violent gust shook the entire structure, followed by a loud crack that made Victoria sit upright in bed. She heard movement from the main room and pulled on her sweater before opening her door. Nathaniel stood by the fireplace, feeding logs into flames that had burned low. He wore sweatpants and a fitted long-sleeved shirt, his dark hair disheveled from sleep. He looked up when she entered, concern flickering across his face. "Did the noise wake you?" he asked. "I think we lost a tree branch on the roof. Nothing serious, but it was loud." Victoria moved closer to the fire, wrapping her arms around herself. "I was already awake. This storm is incredible." "Mountain storms don't hold back," Nathaniel said, straightening from the fireplace. "They come with everything they have, no apologies, no restraint. There's something honest about that." They stood together watching the flames dance, the only light in the darkness beyond the fire's glow. The intimacy of the moment felt heavy with unspoken things, all the careful boundaries they had maintained throughout dinner now stripped away by late hours and isolation. "Can I ask you something personal?" Victoria said quietly. "You said earlier that you almost had a heart attack 3 years ago. What changed after that? Really changed, I mean." Nathaniel was silent for so long Victoria thought he might not answer. Then he turned to face her fully, and in the firelight his eyes held a vulnerability she had never seen in their professional encounters. "I realized I was living someone else's definition of success," he said. "My father built his company through ruthless competition, sacrificing relationships and health for profit margins. I inherited that approach without questioning it. After my health crisis, I understood I was just repeating his mistakes, building the same empty empire. So I started asking different questions. Not how much can I earn, but what actually brings meaning. Not who can I defeat, but who can I trust." He stepped closer, and Victoria felt her heart rate increase. "That's why I invited you here, Victoria. In every meeting we've had, I saw someone who's brilliant and driven, but also trapped in the same prison I was in. I wanted to know if there was more to you than the armor you wear. And I was right. There is so much more." Victoria felt tears prick her eyes unexpectedly. No one had ever seen her so clearly, had ever looked past the competent professional to the lonely person underneath. "I don't know how to be anything else," she whispered. "I've been the successful analyst for so long, I forgot there was another version of me." "She's still there," Nathaniel said gently. "The woman who laughs without calculating the impression it makes, the person who admits she's lonely instead of pretending everything is perfect, the human being who deserves connection, not just accomplishment." Thunder rolled again, softer now as the storm's peak began to pass. Lightning flashed through the windows, illuminating their faces for a brief moment. In that instant, Victoria saw everything she had been running from reflected in Nathaniel's eyes. The longing for something real, the fear of vulnerability, the exhaustion of always being strong. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I'm scared that if I stop being the successful version of myself, there won't be anything left. That I built my entire identity on achievement because I didn't know how else to matter." Nathaniel reached out slowly, giving her time to step away if she wanted. When she didn't move, his hand cupped her cheek with surprising gentleness. "You matter because you exist, Victoria, not because of what you accomplish or how you perform, just because you're you." The simple truth of those words broke something open inside her. Victoria felt tears spill over, years of held-back emotion finally finding release. Nathaniel pulled her into his arms without hesitation, and she let herself collapse against his chest, sobbing in a way she had not allowed herself since her mother's death 15 years ago. He held her through it, one hand stroking her hair, the other wrapped firmly around her back. He didn't offer empty reassurances or tell her to stop crying. He just held her, letting her feel everything she had been suppressing for so long. When the tears finally subsided, Victoria pulled back slightly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, that was completely unprofessional." Nathaniel smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "Victoria, we passed professional about 8 hours ago. This weekend was never really about business. I think we both knew that." She looked up at him, seeing the truth in his expression. "Then what is this about?" "It's about two people who found each other in the middle of their carefully constructed lives and recognized something real. It's about asking if we're brave enough to tear down the walls we built and actually let someone in." Victoria felt the weight of that question. Everything in her life had been about control, about managing outcomes, about never letting anyone see weakness. But standing here in firelight with this man who somehow understood her better than people she had known for years, she realized control had only brought her loneliness. "I want to be brave," she said softly, "but I don't know how." "Neither do I," admitted Nathaniel, "but maybe we can figure it out together." He leaned down slowly, giving her every opportunity to refuse. When his lips met hers, it was gentle and questioning, nothing like the confident businessman she knew from boardrooms. This was the real person beneath the role, as vulnerable and uncertain as she was. Victoria kissed him back, letting herself feel without analyzing, without strategizing the next move. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. They spent the rest of the night talking by the fire as the storm gradually quieted. They shared dreams they had abandoned, fears they had never voiced, hopes they had stopped believing in. Nathaniel talked about wanting to build something that mattered beyond profit, maybe using his resources to create opportunities for people who started with nothing. Victoria admitted she had always wanted to teach, to share what she knew with students instead of just serving wealthy clients. As dawn approached and pale light began to filter through the windows, they sat together on the couch, Victoria's head resting on Nathaniel's shoulder. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside clean and fresh. "What happens when we go back?" Victoria asked, voicing the question that had been growing in her mind. "When we return to our real lives?" Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. "That depends on whether this was real for you, whether you want it to be real." Victoria lifted her head to look at him. "I spent years building a life that looked successful from the outside, but felt empty inside. This weekend showed me what I've been missing: connection, honesty, someone who sees me, not just what I can do for them. Yes, Nathaniel, this is real for me." His smile transformed his whole face, and Victoria saw joy she had never witnessed in their professional encounters. "Then we don't go back to who we were. We go forward as who we're becoming, together." They left the cabin Sunday afternoon, hiking down the mountain path that had brought them there 2 days ago. But everything had changed. Victoria felt lighter, as if she had put down a weight she had been carrying so long she had forgotten it was there. In the car ride back to the city, they held hands like teenagers, discussing not business strategies but possibilities. How they could restructure their priorities, build careers that served life instead of consuming it, create space for relationship alongside ambition. When the car finally pulled up to Victoria's apartment building, Nathaniel walked her to the door. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked. "Somewhere we can keep figuring this out?" "Every tomorrow," Victoria replied, and meant it. As she watched him drive away, Victoria felt something she had not experienced in years: genuine excitement about the future, not because of what she would accomplish or achieve, but because of who she would share it with. The 48-hour challenge had changed everything. 2 people had entered that mountain cabin wearing masks of success and competence. 2 human beings had emerged, ready to build something real together. And sometimes, Victoria thought, as she entered her apartment, the important business decision is choosing to be human first.